Hey everybody, I'm Michael Bayne. This is Mike Kuckle. We're pastors at Greenville Community Church, and more importantly, we are a part of the One Prayer movement. We are one church connected with a whole lot of churches that are fighting for prayer and unity in our city. And we're so thankful we got to be a part of one of those One Prayer nights in May. Like what COVID-19 brought us was at least this new way to get, like we had 15 churches unite for that, to do those nights of prayer in May. And so for any of you that joined us, thank you. Here's what's really funny now that I'm thinking about this. I wore this shirt in that video. So I do have other shirts, just in case you're wondering. So yes, I have other clothes, do not fear. We get to talk a little bit about unity. I thought, Mike, we should tell them our story is kind of a story of unity. I think, because why don't you kind of fill them on what we were doing?
Yeah.
We've been doing ministry together. We're in our second year now. So let me let Mike kind of tell you where this all began. So go ahead.
It really began as a movement of God in our hearts in different ways. So Michael, being from Tennessee, coming here to plant a church a couple of years ago, and I guess it's been about 3 years, hasn't it? You've been here.
Yeah.
I came down to what was David Street Baptist Church in the old Pole Mill community here about 5 years ago to revitalize, to replant, just to be a positive part of what God was doing in this community, because it was clear that God was at work. So we began that work, began to revitalize, but God brought Michael and I together, and it was really amazing to hear his vision and the similar visions that we had and what we saw God doing. So we came together a year and a half, a little more than a year and a half ago, and here we stand before you to testify to God's goodness. He is on the move here in Greenville and of course around the world, but we see something really special happening here that we're excited about. There's so many things that God is doing, and I hope that you see them, and I hope that you would join in this prayer movement, because that's where it starts. That's where it started for us in coming together. That's where it started for all the ministry that we're doing, and what fuels and supplies the power for ministry now.
Yeah, when I think back to our first, we met at a restaurant just right down the street, and we started our journey of figuring out, like, is our Greenville Community Church and David Street Baptist Church, which we started out with prayer. I mean, like, we literally said, and I think one of the things we want to do through these videos is talk about, like, the building blocks of unity in church. And I remember, like, we said, hey, let's not do anything let's just go pray a month.
Right.
And that's it. And we literally both went to our corners and went to our church leadership teams, and we just prayed. I think there's something about prayer that's essential to unity within the body that I think we're probably missing.
Yeah. I mean, I think we see that happening not just with our church and how we came together to be one church, but what we see going on in Greenville itself, what you see through this prayer initiative, through this movement.
Yeah.
We've seen other movements just popping up, and it really is based around prayer. It's churches across denominational lines. It's people of all kinds of diversity coming together in the name of Jesus and crying out to God for Him to move in this place.
Yeah, this definitely, because when you look at all the churches, it's really interesting. Some of you may be thinking, like, well, there's just some diverse churches in this tribe. Yeah, we're pretty different. We have different ways of doing churches. Some of us have different stances on different theological issues. All of those things, you know what unites us is that Jesus prayed that we would be of one heart.
Yeah.
You know, we would be of one. And so, like, that's why we see. So the work is not done. If any of you are out there and you want to see more unity within churches, it begins with praying for that unity and then taking steps. So look, we're going to talk a little bit now about like practical things that we can do to fight for unity among other believers here in this time. I've got a few ideas. I bet you do too. I mean, like, sure. You want me to start or you want to start?
You go ahead.
Okay. Well, this my first thing is we just wanted to be as real as we could with you and just like right off the top of our minds what we think. I think one of the things that I've been convicted by, and this has helped me as I get a little older, is like I can't just talk about unity generically. Like, I've got to be willing to have friendships with other pastors from other denominations and from other backgrounds. So even if you're just a part of the one church, you're a church member. You need to have friends that attend other churches and that have different theological views than you do, so you can get to know them. I think that's one of the things is like, instead of being like, we have here in the Po Mill neighborhood, we're right outside of downtown, we have friends with like 4 different churches here. All of these pastors, we're all friends, and we all encourage each other. But it came out of like, we just got to hang out.
Right.
And we listen to each other, and we set up coffee meetings. So I would say practically, you want to fight for unity, you got to take a risk and get to know somebody from a different church, a different place, a different background, and really focus on your unified passion for Christ. Let that be the driver. What's something that you think practically?
I think you're exactly right. We see prayer as being the foundation. You see that willingness to get outside of our own bubble, maybe outside our own church bubble. And then it would seem the next thing that we could do from there would be to actually then cooperate in ministry together. How can we as churches come together to impact the community? Some of the things we've done with other churches, just say, hey, let's build fellowship. Let's find where those commonalities are in our vision so we can get after it together to be a blessing to our neighborhood, to be a blessing to our city.
Yeah, because it could just be like that you work with another church to solve a mentoring problem in your neighborhood. So it doesn't mean that each church needs that. Find another church and say, what are you doing? What are we doing? What can we do together? It may be that you partnered with several other churches when it comes to Miracle Hill.
Right.
Or when it comes to like, we do a thing every year, which has been affected by COVID, but we do a thing called Summer for Greenville, and we will help other churches take care of things that they need done, like in just serving. So you may want to connect with another church and do like a serve project together. I think that action part is like, there's this, it's all fun and games. Talking about things is easy.
Right.
Praying is not easy if you didn't know this. Praying's hard work. Building relationships is a little more friendly, but it takes time. Action together and not having everything go your way. Like, just like, hey, it's a win, it's a win. Everybody wins in this, because it's gospel oriented. It's like that final frontier. I just think what do you think holds, like, and this is kind of where we'll end, like, what do you think is holding pastors back from that?
Well, there's so many things that can hold you back from that. And a lot of them can be very legitimate reasons, right? Very valid reasons. Just the busyness and the focus that you have just on the congregation that God's put in front of you and giving you the responsibility to shepherd. But it's being able to see beyond that, to get the people around you to help support and then bring things to bear actually on the ministry, to bring people together. But I think that's one of the biggest things, just the busyness of life, right? The busyness of ministry. And a lot of times we with a very valid excuse to use that, we miss the opportunities that God has given us. So it's getting the priorities right and say, okay, this has got to become a part of who we are. Otherwise, the busyness will just keep holding us back.
Yeah, I think, and this will kind of be my last thought, is I think it's busyness, and I think some of that is like legitimate fear. Like, we're afraid, well, if we work with another church, well, then our people may go to their church, or it may not make somebody happy. Somebody may not like that we're cooperating. Like, this denomination church is cooperating with that denomination. Somebody in our church might get mad. I think Jesus never invites us to follow him out of fear. And that's just not the work of Jesus. Like, that is the enemy stirring up. So if you're literally, it's legitimately, like, it's okay. If you're afraid, you're probably right in the middle of what Jesus wants to do in your church and the churches around your neighborhood. I think COVID-19 is going to push us to, I've heard some other people say this, I think hyper-local is the key right now. Like, yeah, people can watch church all over the country. You know what they need? They need a neighborhood group of pastors who are fighting for their neighborhoods. And I can't fight for Simpsonville neighborhoods the same way that Simpsonville churches can.
That's right.
Downtown Greenville churches, we're fighting for our neighborhoods, because there's so many people in our city. Our county, we're getting close to over 500,000 people in our county. 500,000 people. There are so many people to reach. We've got to avoid the fear. We've got to control the busyness and maybe simplify and maybe rearrange some schedules. We hope this helps. If you are a church that ever needs to talk about, if you're thinking about revitalization, or you're thinking about planting, or you're thinking about those kind of issues, we would love to help you. Just know greenvillecommunitychurch.com. Just reach out to us. Or if you want to know like how you can leverage your facility for other people and other organizations, we'll walk you through that too. Like, we just are cheering you on. We hope to see you. We hope we can all gather for one prayer in the fall. If not, we'll do some more online prayer gatherings. So anyway, thanks for watching this. We're praying for you and praying for the One Prayer movement.